Meteorologist Brian Bennett here with your update on what's happening with Hurricane Matthew. Just got the afternoon update. Winds are still blowing 115 miles per hour. The storm is beating up northeast Florida. It's going to be a rough night tonight for South Carolina and for coastal Georgia as well. Now, if you live southwest of this line right here, basically Melbourne to Ocala, if you live southwest of there, you're fine. The storm's pretty much over, maybe a little breezy. If you live northeast of this line, you are not done with a storm, and that's why there's a hurricane warning for Daytona Beach, Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington for overnight tonight and tomorrow morning. Here's a look at the center of circulation right now. It is very close to Jacksonville, right about 40 miles offshore, so getting very close to making the first landfall of the storm. The storm caused 100 mile per hour wind gust in Bahamas and even a 100 mile per hour gust in Cape Canaveral as well, but it did not technically make landfall. That center of circulation didn't cross over Florida yet, so it has yet to make landfall in the United States. Winds right now 115 miles per hour. By 8 p.m. tonight, the storm will be offshore of Brunswick, Georgia. Winds 115 miles per hour, approaching the Savannah area during the nighttime hours. Charleston, South Carolina, winds blowing right around 100 miles per hour by Saturday morning. Very strong winds, potentially making a landfall in this area as well. And then by Saturday evening, the storm starting to weaken a little bit and even making a turn off to the northeast. So if the storm makes landfall here in this Georgia Bight area, as it's called, it'll be a very rare landfall. It's the Georgia Bight. Looks like somebody took a bite out of that area because it's kind of concave, kind of rare for hurricanes to move into that area, so a rare near call tonight. But then what happens with the storm? Everybody wants to know what will happen once it moves past North Carolina. Well, the Hurricane Center says it's going to move to the southeast and then eventually make a turn back, doing a little loop-de-loop here back towards parts of southeast Florida or the Keys. I don't know about that happening. I mean, it's a possibility, but if it does, it'll be a very weakened status as it moves towards southeast Florida, so not a huge risk there. The other possibility, the one I'm crossing my fingers for, will be that it moves out to sea and it will be a storm for the fishes beyond North Carolina. And a third scenario, it could move eastward. And we haven't really spoken much about it, but we have strong Category 2 Hurricane Nicole right here. We have Matthew right here. There is a chance that two could actually hook up with each other, something called the Fujiwara effect. And if they do join together, they could make for a pretty powerful hurricane. Beyond that, it looks like they could go back off to the northeast, merrily out to sea, which is what I'd like to see. But again, something we'll have to watch out for closely, as there are still a lot of uncertainties. All right, how about the wind? We're looking at winds blowing 39 miles per hour, pretty far inland throughout the nighttime hours tonight in this yellow color right here. We're looking at winds blowing 58 miles per hour during the late evening and overnight hours in Brunswick and Savannah by 9 p.m. The red representing hurricane force winds, if not a bit stronger. So Savannah, maybe even downtown Savannah, you could see winds blowing hurricane force, perhaps even close to 100 miles per hour in coastal South Carolina. Same thing goes for Charleston overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning, with hurricane force winds reaching pretty far inland. In fact, hurricane force winds 40 miles inland, looking at damaging winds occurring about 70 miles inland, with a potential landfall around the Charleston area. And then the storm starts to curve out to sea a little bit, right around Cape Fear. So not too much fear as the storm starts to leave around Cape Fear. Here's a look at your RPM Futurecast. The storm moves off to the north. By later this evening, Jacksonville and all of Florida will be quieting down. By the way, Florida, this storm is going to pull in some very dry air behind it. So we're actually looking at a beautiful weekend, a big reprieve from this fear and this storm moving along the coast of Florida. Savannah, though, tonight, heavy rain. Charleston, South Carolina, very heavy rain. That heavy rain spreads up into Florence and parts of North Carolina as well by tomorrow morning. That heavy rain continues all the way into Saturday evening for most of North Carolina and eventually moves out to sea and quieting down. Here's a live view from Miami. Business back to usual. Waves are no longer, so quiet weather right now in southeast Florida, but very rough weather in northeast Florida. Check out these waves. Right now around 16-foot waves as tall as a two-story building are just about offshore of the Jacksonville area right now. Here's a risk of storm surge. 6 to 9 foot storm surge possible in Brunswick up through Savannah and Charleston. Storm surge is the most dangerous, the most deadly part of a hurricane, and that will be happening around Savannah overnight tonight in the red area with this 6 to 9 foot storm surge. If you know of anybody that lives in Hilton Head, down through coastal Savannah, and a bit farther south, please make sure they are evacuating. Storm surge is very dangerous. The water can come on almost like a tsunami, just very quick, and drowning water from the sea. I actually do know of somebody who lives in coastal Savannah. She's refusing to evacuate, but I told her, girlfriend, you have got to get out of there. It is going to be dangerous tonight, but she doesn't want to leave her dogs behind. Load those dogs up in a car or a bus and get the heck out of there, because the dogs probably don't have scuba gear either. We don't want to leave yourself or your pets behind. This is a very marshy area, low-lying area that is very prone to storm surge and could have unprecedented storm surge overnight tonight and through tomorrow morning, with some very bad flooding. A lot of homes will likely be flooded, and of course power outages as well. So praying for the folks in that area. Storm surge not quite as bad once you get up into Charleston, and then not really a concern for most of North Carolina. Here's a look at the rainfall potential. Very heavy rain for coastal Georgia. It gets heavier only because it lasts so long. This area in white here, we're looking at rainfall totals between 16 and 20 inches, so freshwater flooding inland for basically Raleigh up through parts of North Carolina. Very, very heavy rain. Freshwater flooding likely. It can be dangerous as well. So lots of heavy rain for coastal areas. All right, so that's what's happening. Again, the storm did not make landfall in Florida. Looks like that could happen right around the coast of South Carolina. Again, that's fairly unusual as well. There hasn't been a Cat 4 or Cat 5 hurricane strike anywhere around Savannah going back more than 150 years. So unprecedented scenario. Tampa Bay, Miami, you are in the clear. Northeast Florida, you'll be in the clear later this evening. Savannah, Charleston, we're praying for you that you have everything in ready and of course prepared for this storm. All right guys, that's an update on Matthew. Have a great and safe evening.